So now I'm being joined by Ben Shine from Domo. Ben, thank you for joining me. I was saying just beforehand that you were my first interview when we went into lockdown, and now we've bookended it that you're the first one back. So thank you very much.
That is a very natural bookend. I'm happy to play that role.
Exactly. It's great to have you on. So I'm kind of curious. You had your talk this morning. I heard great reviews and everyone was talking about it, which is great. So I kind of just want to start by talking about what issues is data currently facing that you want kind of people to really hear about.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think one of the themes of the talk this morning, and it's something that I talk a lot about, is just chaos.
Yes.
Right? There's just so much data, so much changing, coming from all directions. Sometimes, you know about it. Sometimes you don't even know about it, whether it's, obviously COVID was a part of that, and our last conversation was a little bit of how we started thinking about that, but it's not, COVID just put it on steroids, right? It's everything. The amount of data we have, the amount of, again, just chaos, and how do you deal with that chaos? How do you not just run away and say, nope, I can't deal with data because it's too chaotic? Well, it's going to be chaotic, so then what are the tools you can put in place to govern that chaos or direct the energy of that chaos in a positive direction? It's a real challenge, I think, for a lot of teams right now.
For sure. And there's nothing wrong with a bit of chaos every once in a while. It happens. It's business. It's data. You cannot control it, especially when you've got organizations who has everything in all different locations. It's going to be a challenge. So talking about that governance element, how does, say, for example, you mentioned in the talk, BI governance play a role into all of this?
Yeah. No, I think it's incredibly important, and I think, often you'll say, oh, you're talking about governance, you must be a really straight-laced person, or you must really not want to innovate. And the reality is, I'm a very messy person. That's what part of the talk was, data can be messy, and I'm messy, and it's because of that I value governance, right? If I wasn't a messy data person, governance wouldn't be a big deal, but the governance is the enabling factor that allows for messy innovation. That makes sure that I'm not doing anything too outrageous. I'm not violating GDPR or anything like that. And just, it lets that happen. And if I, over the years, and maybe myself 20 years ago, I would have said, I don't want to be governed, let me just do my thing. But the reality is that governance is empowering and enabling when done right. And it allows for that messiness and to embrace some of that chaos. And so I think, a lot of times, you have to figure that out. You have to also acknowledge the nuance of it, right? That it's not one size fits all.
No,
different kinds of data, different approaches, different organizations, and sort of knowing that, and that's been a real focus even in the last year since we spoke. I've spent a lot of time talking about governance, which again you could say like that, like my title, Vice President of Data Curiosity. Some people might say, well, is governance the foil to that? I would say governance is the foundation for curiosity, not the foil to curiosity.
Yeah, exactly. It's easy to rebel against it, isn't it? And you don't want to do that system, but it needs to be done. It's something that needs to be there. Before we started rolling, we were talking about the new Sandbox initiative. So it'd be great to kind of get more insight on that and where we're at from a data ops perspective going forward.
Yeah, no, it's been a really interesting journey as we sort of looked at, what is the goodness of DevOps and how do you look at that, but then do it in a way that's sort of uniquely Domo and fits into sort of our low-code mentality. And one of the things, when I think about Domo, a lot of our success, and I've been using Domo for 7 years, and so when I started using Domo, it was really about cards, and then you just sort of put them on a page. And so when I did that, my DevOps process was, I'm going to start a new visual, I'm going to maybe have some people look at it, and then I move it onto the page. And we've really evolved to being more about data storytelling, that our dashboards or our pages are really like mini apps or web pages, right? So there's color and interaction and all these things. But then all of a sudden that means there's a lot more to track. There's no way for me to do a low code or easy DevOps process. And we're in the cloud, right? When you have a lot of systems that are even cloud-based now, you do the development on your desktop. So that's sort of your low code DevOps. I'm doing it on my desktop when I'm ready, I upload it. But we've been so successful at making our product richer, but then also at getting CEOs and frontline business workers using the product, which I think indirectly now has made people say, oh my gosh, I better not touch that. What if the CEO notices it and doesn't like that? And so part of what Sandbox is enabling is being able to create repositories of different types of data or different elements in Domo, so pages, cards, calculated fields, data flows and magic, views, and being able to sort of version that and then promote it or revert, right? Oh, I promoted it, the CEO hates it, I can revert to that. And we've set it a dynamic where it can both be within the same sort of instance of Domo, or if you can also move it between. So if you want a full dev instance, a test instance, and a prod instance, we can facilitate that, but all of this in sort of more of a low-code, approachable way. Whereas right now, it's sort of the choices if you want some versioning and that goodness of DevOps, you need to go into very high code, back end, in the different cloud providers and engineering. Which sometimes might be warranted, but then you miss out on sort of this place. And I'm really excited, not just to see the product work, but I do think there's sort of this hidden innovation, like we were talking about, that people are a little scared to try things because they know so many people are relying on what they've built in Domo. So this will actually create this space to say, well, let's try something else. Oh, we don't like it. We didn't promote it yet. It hasn't gone to production. And so it's certainly something we've been hearing a lot from some of our bigger customers, but I think there's, again, sort of this downstream impact on just how do people in general that maybe don't have a full DevOps environment think more of that way and get some of that goodness out of it.
Yeah, definitely. Do you think that kind of approach will help foster a culture of more data literacy and confidence, more confidence, I would say, to take those risks and not worry about, as you say, it's going to go public, the CEO is going to see it, it's going to damage our reputation, take those risks?
And I think, and as I've had a lot of conversations with people, with the analyst community, I think they've sort of reminded me of that too, because it's easy to get into the logistics of it. I'm going to do a repository, I'm going to commit it, I'm going to promote it, and that's all happening, like, as the logistics, but I do think that the collaboration that can happen around data, the idea of, rather than talking about the idea, right? It's like, hey, what if we change this data flow to do this approach differently? What if we looked at the average 10-day instead of the average 5-day? That ability to not just talk about it, but to do it, look at it, experience it, and then decide, is that good or bad? I think it will change some conversations and make people feel more open to that and more willing to try new things.
Get that confidence back up and people kind of trusting within it. Lovely. So one final question for you, Ben. In terms of great event here today, it's great to see people and talk to them again. What is the one takeaway that you would like to ingrain in people's heads to go away from this event, to take back to their companies and do?
So I brought my props, so maybe
Excellent.
I should link it back to that. So, I talked about chaos, and I think data can be messy, a kitchen can be messy, and so, what I talked about today was that, I have my little chef hat and my spoon, is how do we think about a place like a kitchen that can be very messy and chaotic, in the same way that, at a restaurant that you have organizing principles, you channel that chaos into a great meal, and you deliver food to a complex group of people with different requirements. I would say it's the same thing with data, right? Embrace the chaos. You can't make a kitchen not get messy. You can't make your data not messy. You need to own that piece and then find ways to organize and channel it based upon what's right for your organization. And it's not going to be one size fits all.
Exactly.
But really, I would say embrace the chaos.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of analogies over the year for data, but I think the messy kitchen's probably my favorite. So,
You got the hat.
Got to get the hat on.
Put it on.
The final shot. Yes. Lovely, Ben. Well, thank you for talking to me. It's always a pleasure chatting with you, and hopefully down the road.
Yes, again in person. Hopefully.
Exactly.
No more virtual.
Never again. Never again.
Yes.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, Max.